Good evening all. Just waiting for everybody to join us this evening, so I thought I'd give you a little bit of music whilst you wait. I hope it's to everybody's liking.
Don't it seem so far away? But we're traveling light today in the eye of the storm, in the eye of the storm. Home to a new and a shining place. Make our bed and we'll say our grace. Freedom's like burning warm. Freedom's like burning warm. Everywhere around the world, they come into America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America. Got a dream to take them there. They come into America. Got a dream they got to share. They come into America.
As I say, we're just waiting for people to join. We will start at 7 o'clock as we originally said. So welcome to anybody else who's just joined in the last few minutes. I see we're up to about 16 at the minute, so nearly up to last week's numbers. Hopefully the introduction is just a little better for you, rather than me talking over everything all the time. So I'll just let you finish off this one. Well, that was one of my favourites. It was certainly one that I haven't played for quite a while. We're just up to 17 now. If there is anybody who's joined us this evening and they haven't subscribed and hit the bell so they're notified when a new video goes on, or a new live event coming up, then please do, make sure that you join and subscribe to the channel and let others know that it's available as well. So as I say, we will be off in a short while. So here's another little bit of music for you for a short while. Right, we might as well make a bit of a start. Welcome to everybody who's just joined us in the last minute or two. I see Neil popped in there. Welcome to everybody. I'm just looking at the names up the side there on the chat. I think I've said good evening to everybody now. So we will move on and we will get on with the evening. So I've just had a message from Jan up in the top end of the country there. Welcome, Jan, if you can hear me. And we'll get on with it and see if we can enlighten you on how to produce a panel. So hopefully by the end of the evening you'll be a little bit wiser and be able to produce the panel in a form where it meets the criteria for the judges, and it's not quite as easy as I possibly are going to make it out tonight, because your content really needs to be good. You know, you've got to hit something that works well for the judge. So onwards and upwards. Don't forget that when you see the slides, you'll see the writing, but of course, if it was a normal slideshow, you would only be seeing the slides one line at a time. So do bear with me. There is a little bit of writing on a few of them to start with, so we'll get on with the first slide. Right, what is a panel of images? In a photograph panel competition, you are required to produce a group of images called a panel, which in some way fit together to, say, tell a story or portray a visual story through the three images. How do you put together the three images to make a panel? Well, to make a good panel of images, it requires a number of things to make the selected images gel together. The subject matter requires something in common with all of the images. In a few minutes you'll see examples, and we'll gradually build this up so that you can see what you could think is a good connection and what then becomes a better connection as we go on. So when viewing the images, they need to connect. What do I mean by that? What I mean is they have to have a reference to each other. So it's no good having something that doesn't, as I said a few minutes ago, tell that story, or at least link together in some way. So the images need to be of similar size. When I say that, it's no good having one image which is in an A4 size mount, and then your next one's in a 9x6 mount. So they all need to gel together. So the images need to face the right way as well. So it's no good having an outer image looking out of the panel of three. Sounds simple, but it's just something to remember. If it's a print competition, the mounts need to be the same. What I mean by that is, and it comes up again later, but what I mean by that is that the mounts, it's no good having a black one, a blue one, and a white one, or a cream one. You need to get that uniformity into your panel. So just think about uniformity, make sure that the images are matching, they tell a story. So I'm beginning to build a picture up. You can see that now, can't you? So the size of the aperture mount recess, as I've just said a minute ago, needs to be the same, plus much more that we will discuss shortly. Just as I move on, I can see that we've had another couple of people join us, so welcome to those that have just joined us in the last couple of minutes. Right, on to the next slide. Let's split this down into stages. Point 1, the subject matters requires something in common. It's no good having a motorbike, a person and a wildlife picture. Obvious. Sounds obvious, but when you look at things, you may have a thought as to your own way of making it all work together. The driver may be a person that stood and he is associated with the car, but is he in a crash helmet and something like that? So, you've got to make it gel. So a panel which consists of a landscape picture, a wildlife picture and a dog don't gel, as the dog doesn't really fit with the other two images. But what if we had a landscape image, a wildlife image and a gamekeeper with his working dog? Well, that's now beginning to get the idea of linking the images together. But wait a minute, the wildlife image is a snake. It doesn't gel, does it? So I know it all sounds a little bit corny and you're probably thinking, well, come on, get on with it. We know about that. But, when you sort of sit back and think about it, you may be thinking on the wrong line. So hence a little bit of technical stuff for a start. So we need to give some consideration to the content. Landscape image, something that is dramatic and has some great impact on the viewer, which has a connection to the other images. Right, on to the second image, wildlife. Maybe consider a stag or a goat or a horse, something with a bit of size to the subject so that it's not too small in the frame. Finally, we need to get the corresponding third image, the gamekeeper and his dog. This may not be a great example, but it's just a starter to get your grey matter working. Unfortunately, although you have 3 images sorted, there is more to consider. The corresponding size of all the images. It's no good having a very small gamekeeper and dog on a hillside because you've already got your hillside in the landscape one. So, just think about it that way. Where you place the 3 images of the panel. What do you have in the middle? What do you have on the outsides? Which way are they facing? The mount colour and mount aperture size. Keep mount colour simple. Don't go for greens or purples or something like that, unless it's something within the images that actually will fit with that. Say an instance is Tony McIntosh. He does some music type theatre stuff. So if he's doing a band and it's all lights and flashing pictures, etc., then his gaudy mount might work. But if it was a landscape and you put it into a mauve or a purple mount, it's not going to work. So make sure, just said that one. So no, make sure that the image's size works well in your panel of 3. Choose carefully which image is on the right, centre and left as you view them. Don't forget that the judge is looking at them from the front. So just make sure that you're actually looking at them in the right way. For instance, if you have a picture of a person looking to the right in the frame, it would be no good placing it as the right-hand image. Otherwise, it would be looking out of the panel. Simple, really, but, it's very true. I've got some examples coming up in a minute, I think, after this slide. So, a portrait image on the right, a wildlife in the middle, and the landscape on the left. It just wouldn't work. You've got to think about the landscape would probably be the middle one, and the other 2 situate them to either side. So mount colour must be sympathetic to all 3 images. Just because I said keep it simple, if there's a clash with the cream mount or the black mount to one of the images, then it won't work. So just think of that as being taking care to get the right colours. When you're actually doing your images, it says here, be sensible with the size. Leave a couple of inches around the outside, 50mm around the image. Make sure that you don't leave too small a gap around the outside. Finally, when you have all sorted your images, your images and mounts, mark on the back how you want them to be viewed. I'll show you that at the end. That is critically important. When the person, like myself, Bob, as Jim used to do as well, we used to put them up on the board, we need to know where to place those images. So I'll show you how to do that at the end. So you must mark them left, centre and right. Right, you have choices. You can have 3 portrait images, 3 landscape images, 2 portrait images, 1 landscape image, 2 landscape image, 1 portrait image. Whatever you choose, it has to look right. What I'm trying to say by that is that when you look at those images, they have to balance, because the landscape one needs to be in the landscape orientation. The portrait images need to be in portrait orientation. If you did a landscape in a portrait orientation, it may not fit in with the others. So just think very carefully about how you're going to lay out your images, portrait or landscape. Right, we're into the pretty bits. So this is an example of a panel, but not a good example. Imagine all images are in mounts. Don't forget that I'm showing you on the screen here 3 images which are just that, images. When you do the print panel for the 20th of August, that's when the competition is, and I really hope we're all back together by then. So, but that's the 20th of August, so you've got plenty of time to think of your content and get it right. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop it down in the comments below, because when you write a comment below, that does pop up and for me to see when I'm looking in the back end of the slideshow here. So do put the comments down below. Top set doesn't balance, stag looking out of the panel. You can see what I'm saying. You know, it's looking to the right and it's facing to the right. So landscape on the left, and the dog looking away from the deer. You know, everything's going wrong. So let's put them back into a little bit more orientation. The bottom 3 pictures there. We've now got the stag looking in. We've got the landscape, this waterfall coming down, and we've got the dog my Ruby, the dog on the right there. So they're all sat there, but of course the deer really is too small. You know, look at the ratio of the dog to the deer. So not a good panel at all. So do be careful how you get your images sized and placed. But don't forget that all important thing. If you're doing a panel which you're doing them, say roughly A4, which is 12 by 8, then don't forget that your landscape want to be 12 by 8 and your portrait realistically wants to be 12 by 8. If you're going to have that orientation where you've got a landscape at either side and a portrait in the middle, then you can have the centre one slightly larger, but the outer 2 must be the same. So if there's 2 portrait ones on the outside, they need to be the same, even if the landscape one is a different size. So do make sure you're getting a balance with all of your images. This next one, we can start to look at some examples which look a bit better and gel together. In this example, we have used 2 landscapes and 1 portrait, just as I said a minute ago, you know, a portrait and a landscape. So it does work quite nicely if you have the portrait in the middle, rather than trying to put the two landscapes together and a portrait on the outside. Excuse me. Right. The left image faces inwards, the right image faces inwards, and we have a straight on image in the centre. Things are looking much better. It doesn't matter that one is portrait. Don't worry about getting one of the images different to the other. If you have two portraits, one landscape, that works well as well. There's nothing wrong with that. So do make sure that you get them in the right place, though, and that they're working in this sort of format. At this point, looking at Ruby, don't forget size, in this case, does matter. So the left and the right one are roughly the same size. The centre one is same size equivalent to the outside two. Now, I must smile at this point because I wanted an example where the two dogs were the same size on either side. So basically what I did, I just flipped it. So hence the reason that they're the same size. So you are looking at the same picture there, but it's just for example, of course. So that's all we need on this particular evening. Right, a little bit more writing here. There is never going to be a perfect image, so all judges are judges are different. What we have to try and create for the judge is a panel of stunning images. The last set of images of my dog Ruby look fine, but they are very standard set of images. When a judge looks at the images, he will see some well-exposed, well-composed images, even though, as I said earlier, I just flipped one. Please don't copy my example. Flipping doesn't work, not in a competition, but they are still your everyday images. It's not got that wow factor. Try to find a subject which, as soon as a judge sees your panel, she will inwardly say, wow, that's great. That's the sort of thing you want to hit them with, even with single images. Make sure that your single images, when the judge looks at them, does say, yeah, I like that. It's a great image. So I can't tell you what is a good subject. That is up to you to produce the best that you can. It's not something that anybody could tell you to do. Because if you presented one image to one judge and then the same image to another judge, they could look at it totally different, as we know from all of the competitions that we have at the club. So over the next few slides, I will put together a few panels using my own images to give you some ideas, but don't try to copy any of them, as the images I will be using have not been taken specifically to put together in a panel. So if you're thinking of a panel competition, in one way, you really don't want to go looking through your hard drives just to find 3 things that make your panel up. Think about it in advance and work on the principle that these 3 images that you're going to take are going to be spot on for the competition. So I hope the following will give you some ideas as you go through them. Try to think, what could I do better? Not what I could do better, but what you could do better. There will be some faults in some of them, which I will explain after each set of the images. Right, just a simple black and white setup here. We've got the 3 images. We've got the gent sat there, we've got the chappie stood in the middle, and then the 2 looking at the engine on the outside. Instantly, and I'm just hesitating here for you to think, well, that's the wrong way round, because surely the gent sat down should be looking into the middle. So yes, he should be on the right hand side. The chappie in the middle well, he was portrait, so that's all right. So the others could be look on the left-hand side, but no, they're looking out of the frame then. So have another look. Even though they're dark images, one's got some colour in it. Now, if you're going to do a panels competition, in most cases you would like, or the judge would like to see a set of colour or black and white. Doesn't really matter whether it's colour, black and white, they're usually separated in the competition anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the one on the right there's got colour in it, so it doesn't really gel. If you do put a colour one in, then make sure the colour one's in the middle if the other two are black and white. But I think you'll find that most panel competitions are either colour or black and white, so you'll not get this scenario where you've got a colour one in among two black and whites. So just giving you a bit of an idea, they've all got the theme, they've got the station theme, they've got the steam, the action, some things happening in each of them, so we're getting there. Our first panel of the 3 portrait style images, what did you notice? 2 images, a black and white, 1 colour. Yes, colour, this is a problem, but could be overcome if the colour image was in the centre. This also puts the 2 gents in the middle with the single gents on either side. Think carefully about putting black and white and colour together, as I've just said. This gives us 2 steamy images and 1 clear image. And realistically, when you look at that, the 2 steamy images, if I just pop back, you're putting 1 in the middle now and 1 on the side, so you're losing your balance, so it's not balancing as well. So the 3 images don't really gel, with 1 not having steam in it, and he is sitting down as well. The others are technically working. They're 1 stood up and 1 sat down, so you're getting there. You've got the theme together, but you've got to think a little bit more about it. There are technical problems with the images as well. The content related to train stations can be a great subject, but this panel is not quite good enough to enter into a competition as there's too many flaws. You've got to get it right. It is very difficult to put these panels together to make them work, but it's very, very rewarding when you get it right. When you do the images and you look at them, you'll realise that they are, all of a sudden you'll say, yep, that gels, that goes together. Right, so we've got 3 landscape ones here. Once again, we've got them on the railway side again. These were some images that Graham Halliday and myself took when we went for an evening shoot, and 3 images all work well. We've got we've got this chappie stood in front of the sign, we've got the others talking, the 3 in the middle, and we've got the 2 in the carriage. But once again, it just doesn't gel. It's not yes, we've got the steamy one in, it works well there, but the chap on the left's looking at left out of the picture, and the other 2 are sat down. It's just not gelling still. So it's all of this is just to give you an idea and to set the old grey matter thinking. We're getting a bit better with this panel, although still not a strong panel. So what did you see wrong with this last panel? Although this panel is getting better, once again the images are in the wrong places. To balance the 2 images with 2 people should be on the outside, and the single person image should be in the centre. This panel is telling a bit stronger story, but are the images strong enough to be up there in the top 3? That's what you've got to think. You're putting this panel together, but at the end of the day, you've got to get it up there in the top lot so that it gets the points. It's all fun at the end of the day. That's what the Camera Club's about. A bit of fun, putting things together, trying a few new things, and it is nice to have a go at something different. So I'm looking forward to seeing the images in August. So go back to the last panel and study them so that you can work out what would make them stronger and what would you do to make them stronger. There's the 3 images. You know, you've got to think about that, moving them about. Now, if the guy on the left was in the middle, then he would be the one that was in the right place. It doesn't necessarily matter that he's looking across to the left. He then wouldn't be looking out of the picture, you know, out of the panel. The group of people, they would be on the left then, but then it would look a bit odd because you've got the steam behind them, which just doesn't gel. So we'll move on to the next one. Right, we're getting a little bit better now. We've got these 3 images here, 2 of the same person. If you put 2 images of the same person into one panel, make sure that you get the what you believe and what you think the viewer will believe to be the right order. So consequently, should I have him blowing his whistle on the left, or because we read from left to right, should the one with the whistle in his hand be on the left and the one with his whistle in his mouth on the right? You know, begin to sort of think, which way round should things be? We've got a good balance here. We've got the steam in all 3 of the images, although the steam on the right hand image is a little bit strong really. But at the end of the day, you know, it's getting better, and the 3 images size wise are getting very close. When I say size wise, that's the size of the people in the images. The 2 outer ones are a little larger in frame than the older gent, but getting close. You know, we're getting there. Sorry about so much writing, but I knew that I couldn't remember all of this to be able to tell you, and I need to get it across to you to explain so that you know what you need to do to get a good panel. So the last panel is getting there. They're all portrait style images of similar size, but once again, what was your thoughts? Did you think they would be in the top 3 in a panel competition? What did you think was wrong? You know, at the end of the day, one, it's your panel. If you like the panel, it's like every time I judge a competition, I always say to people, it's your image at the end of the day. So if you like the panel, then that's all that matters. Winning is really, really good. But as long as you're happy with it, you know, you're halfway there. There is a similarity to them all being in the station environment. They're all in the same atmosphere, but pop back and take another look. Are they in the right order? As I said, they are in this case because, well, that's up to you really. That depends whether you like him blowing his whistle first or last. That would be the only reason that you would change it. Logically thinking, the guard picture as you view the panel on the left is looking well out of the frame, so consider changing the 2 outside images round. In my view, not only are you changing them round because one is looking more to the left than the other, but holding the whistle, as I just said a minute ago, comes before blowing the whistle. You've got to hold it before you blow it. A very small point, but these are the sort of things you have to consider. Try and take away the chance of the judge can look at the image and say, I think you should have done this. You know, you need to take that away from him. So, right, let's get some different subject matter. Had enough of trains. Sorry, Graham. Sorry. Let's look at some different subject matter. I had to have birds in a panel somewhere, didn't I? Really, with the amount of bird pictures I take, I've got to show you some of birds. So, I mean, look at this one. We've got 3 quite nice images. You've got the one on the left is a juvenile, the one in the centre is a juvenile, the one on the right's a juvenile. So we've got a bit of a balance going on here now. We've got the young bird being in them all. What do you think, and I'm sure to say this again in a minute, but what do you think could make it any better? You know, is there something that you think you could make a little bit better from those three images? I mean, I can tell you now, on the screen, they're all sharp, they're all technically good, but you know, have a think about it. Right, we're now beginning to get some nice images. They are sharp, nice backgrounds, well balanced, and the two outer images are roughly the same size. We could make the right hand image a little larger to match the left hand size, but they're not far out. So does this panel work? Let's go back and take another look. Yeah, it works. You know, it's all wildlife, it's three wild birds. We've got clean backgrounds. I will give you a few details about the birds. The two outer birds are herring gulls. One looks like a first year bird and the other is a second year bird. So yes, they do gel together. As I said, they're juveniles. So the centre bird, well, yes, it matches because it's a young bird. Does it matter? That would it be totally for the judge to decide on his in his own mind? What I'm trying to say there is, should you have had, if you're going to make this a panel, and we'll just go back, if we make this a panel, should we have had another herring gull sat on the water? You know, is it right that we've got an eider duck in the middle and two herring gulls on the outside? You know, at the end of the day, that's going to have to, you know, that's going to have to be your decision and the judge's decision. Where have I got to? We'll go straight to the bottom where we're getting much better now. I hope you're following the whole sort of a process of putting these together. But you have to get it there to get a good panel. Right, let's take a subject that you can't really criticise. You know, look at them carefully. You've got two outer images which are taken at night. We've got two images that are coloured. One which is natural in the state of the metal colour. So it is something that does gel together. It's the kelpies up near Edinburgh in Scotland. Had to be Scotland, didn't it? Do we think the images match size-wise? Are we happy with this panel? Would you yourselves use these panels? You know, I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm going to leave you. I'm beginning to get to the better sets now, so that it means that you can begin to make your own decisions. So the last panel of the kelpies is now getting close to being a panel that could be placed before a judge. They all have something in common. They are the same subject matter for a start. Then we have the centre picture, which is the daytime image. Good detail on all of them, great sky and just enough room around the image. Now take the two night images, both different colours, which makes the images stand out from the centre image. Now we'll take another look just to let you see what you think to the three images again, just before I get to that last little bit on the writing there. The images do look very similar, but you've got to look at the bottom and the top of the images. So, right, did you notice what you would change? There are a couple of changes that I would do. if I was presenting the three images as panel, is to make sure that the three images are the same size and positioning in the frame. As you all know, I always say the image is yours, so if you want them slightly different, do it. You know, if you want the outside too, but don't unbalance your panel. Don't have the two outer ones in this particular case to be smaller, that one outer one be smaller than the other. So, you know, do be careful with your balance. Right, nature. 3 butterflies here. So we've got a good theme going on. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 people have joined us that will be able to name the butterflies, but common blue in the middle, and that's about my lot. Do they balance? Are they looking right? We'll come back to them in a minute. Right, we have different subject matter again, but what do you think about the last panel? I'm going to start letting you think a little bit more about the panels to allow the old grey matter to start thinking panels. Think order of the images, size of the subject matter, coloration of the images, do they gel? The background, the technical detail, the composition, and as it says there at the bottom, the list goes on. So we'll just look back at this one, and if you look at the images, you'll see that we've got 2 with wings open and 1 laid slightly to its side. I'm just erring a little bit at this time because I took the picture and I thought, oh, it stayed still quite a while, and I just touched it and it was dead. But hey ho. So not a good image to use. And if you look at the 2 on the right, the centre image and the right image as we view them, they've both got the wings open, they've both got softer backgrounds. So had the left-hand image been a good image, you would have had to have had that one in the middle because it's so close to the grasses, etc. in the background that you would need to separate the other 2 with it in the middle. But not a good panel, not a good panel. Right, we're getting close now, so here's a collection of gannets that I took up in Scotland. There's a place that I go to if I go from March onwards. There's a place a little bit like Bempton Cliffs, but the only difference is there's only usually about half a dozen people there, and you have to walk possibly half a mile or a little bit more to get there. There's no fences on the edges. It is just you and the cliff, so you can get into positions where you can get yourself sat down and you can get some absolutely corking images. The balance of these 3 is beginning to look much, much better now. So we're looking at the left hand and the right hand image. You know, they're both looking into the frame, and then we've got the 2 doing the pairing ritual in the centre. Now, as a panel, it works very well together as images of the same subject matter. The technical detail, the sharpness, and everything else is absolutely fine. You know, it will pass any judge's critique in sharpness, etc., without doubt. Is the actual images, do you think that they gel nicely? I'm just going to see what I've written next. Yeah, we'll go through this first. Take a look at your images and make sure they gel together and tell a story, or show the subject to give the viewer an idea of the subject matter shown. Be careful with black and white subjects. Do not blow out the white or block up the blacks. I'm just going to pop back to the last one. So if we see these images, the worst thing for taking pictures of on a sunny day is gannets. Now, if you're doing gannets on a cliff top and you've got the sun blazing down on them, then you have to start underexposing. You cannot just pick your camera up on any shutter priority mode or f-stop mode, aperture mode, and snap the picture. You've got to put some underexposure on anything white. So these are exposed all right, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not happy personally with this particular panel because the one on the right, I just feel that the head is just at an awkward angle. You know, if I could get a slightly different image for that one on the right there, it would make it much better. And I think if it could be something similar to the one on the left where I've got a little bit more of the body in it, that would really make it up there in the top 3. So make sure you can see detail in all of your images. Clean backgrounds. Make sure they're sharp. Check the size of the subject is very similar. So like the last 3 gannets, you know, make sure that they actually look correct. If the subject has eyes, that's where you've got to focus. You know, if it's an animal or a person, you've got to make sure that those eyes are absolutely pin sharp. The judge is going to slaughter it if it's just a little bit soft. So the focus point has to be over the eyes, and you need to work on the eyes at a later stage post-production. So check the size of the subject similar, choose mounts and aperture size and make sure the images sizes are the same. Choose a subject that is different. You know, I've done the birds, I've done the dog, the rest of the images in there, but at the end of the day, you know, it does, and it is something like possibly the set of 3 images of in the station that is something different. You know, it could be the winner. So just think of something a little bit different. So choose a subject that's different. Okay, doesn't always cut it with the judge, but if you get the right judge, he may just jump on that and say, wow, I like that. So, you know, just make sure that you try and get something different. When you're looking to choose your images, and I must admit, if all of you are anything like me, don't ask the wife or the partner if they're good, because they'll say, well, they're all good to me. You know, just ask friends really what they think about the subject matter. They might see something very simple that you haven't even picked out in the images. So, you know, do just look and wonder, am I doing the right thing? Ask questions from other camera club members. You know, this is why we're a camera club. We're trying to help each other to better our photography. That's what it's all about. So it is hard. It's never going to be easy. But if you don't ask for that little bit of help, you know, nobody's going to come up to you and say, what would you like to talk about tonight? You know, do make sure that you ask. That's what we're there for. Right, here it is. That's how you would mark your images, and we're now looking at the back of the mount. So you've got to explain in this little diagram at the bottom, the 3 squares, how you want the person putting the images up to display your images. Now, don't forget that you're talking about where you're placing these images as the viewer looks at them. The viewer being the audience and the judge. So if you want the centre one, well, it's simple. That's in the centre. So, you know, whether it be, I've shown it as a portrait, but it could be 3 landscape images. But that's easy. That's the centre one. The left and the right is how the viewer is looking at them. So I'm just going to nip back a couple of slides. Now, when we look at these Gannett slide, then the image that you want placing on the left, of course, is as you're viewing it. So do think of the way that you're looking at it. So go on. And of course, whoops, one too far. And of course, the one on the right is the one on the right as you're viewing it. It all sounds very logical, but it can be very easy to get it wrong. So, you know, do make sure you get it right. Right, I do hope that that's been of help to you all. I know it's been a short evening. It's only been 45 minutes, but usually with something like this, if we was doing it at the old school as a club evening, then I would have stopped at the appropriate places and I would have asked, you know, is there any questions? Do you understand what I'm saying? Etc, etc. So, you know, if you've got a question, then just jot it down in the chat there. I've got a screen up which I'm sort of watching. I can't read it and talk at the same time because it doesn't work like that. When I'm looking at a slide in front of me, some chat coming up on the other screen and showing you the slides as well. But I think to finalise from myself and to give you the best sort of advice that I can, and that is to choose your subject as carefully as you can. You know, do make sure that it's something different, that it gels together, that it looks colour-wise correct. It's no good having 2 images that gel and one that just sticks out. They've got to balance, and if they don't balance, it's not going to be up there in the held panels to take a further look at and to hopefully give you a winner at the end of the day. We've had at the Camera Club over the years, and this is our 24th year, we've had people that have come who have started with either no camera or compact cameras, and now they're producing winning images. I'm not going to mention any members this evening, but I must admit, and there's 1 or 2 of the committee members that would agree with me, that at the end of the day, we've got members that we could say, well, given 3, 4, 5 years ago, their images were not technically right. They were not of the right material, but now they're winning competitions. So it is possible. Don't think it's not. You know, there is the ability in us all to get images, and in this case a panel of images which will be up there. I don't want you to think or go away. When I ever do the training with anybody, my final parting words to them are, don't think that it's the end of the training here. Make sure that you do get in touch. In this case, write your comments in the line below, you know, in the comments below. If you don't ask, you won't know. When you write any of your comments, don't forget that this is a public YouTube channel. The public do see it. We're getting quite a lot of views, even though we've only got, I think it's 6 videos on now. We are getting quite a lot of views for that amount. We've had over 50 hours of viewing on the site, and for 6 videos, that's a lot. So when you do put your comments in, do make sure that they're on topic, polite, etc. So just got Paul put a comment up. Paul, as you all will have seen, has put, would it be okay to have a subject matter getting larger or smaller in the panel, something like a fly's wing, fly's compound eye? Yeah, you know, if you, that is one of the ways of being different. If you want to try something that's different like that, Paul, have a go at it. Don't be excessive with it. If you start off with a full fly and you ended up with just a full, more than life-size macro shot of a fly's eye, then it may not work. Just look at it and say to yourself, does that 3 stages of in the picture, does it work? And if it works for you, then there's bound to be other people that will also believe that it's right. It's got to look right though. If it doesn't balance to you, don't do it. You know, just change it a little bit. Get that evenness to go from left to right or from right to left, whichever way you want it to work. It will be okay to do anything. You know, at the end of the day, the subject matter is up to you. It's whether that subject matter hits it with the judge. So just before I finish, is there any more questions that anybody wants to just type in up there, and so that we can answer any questions if there is any? Just wait a second or two. I hope, as I said earlier, that everybody has enjoyed this evening. I hope you liked my new intro. The only thing that you've got to be very careful of, and it's something that I must admit, think about very strongly, was that I mustn't start singing along with the songs. I can't sing anyway, but it would be a case of everybody would be going straight away. How many entries in the comp? It is just one. Bob's just put a question there, as you've just seen. It is just, I believe, and I'm going to ask Jill to, yeah, Jill's just put it, 2 panels per member. So you could have 2 panels, so you'd be doing 6 images. If you're just looking at the notes here, Neil's just put, and I was going to say, if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell to be reminded of any new videos. Neil has done a brilliant little video which he thought was going to be short, but it ended up longer. But he's done a little video on the camera on his mobile phone. So do make sure that you go onto the YouTube channel, take a look at the videos, have a look at them, and give us a thumbs up on them, and make sure that you consider what's right and what's wrong on your images. So thank you all for all of your thanks. I'm just going to read out a couple of notices that I've got here. Now, unfortunately, the first one is a little bit sad. Some of you will remember Phil Lewis. Phil Lewis was with us, I believe, for 2 years, and Phil left the club and he moved up to Whitby. But unfortunately, Phil Lewis died recently, and Brian Cross did let me know today, and Viv also let me know today. So our sympathy is with the families, of course, and all the relatives in there. So unfortunately, we lost Phil recently. Don't forget about your best pictures for the 2021 25-year anniversary calendar. And just as a reminder, I did get the ratio wrong. The ratio should be 3:2. It's equivalent to A4, so that's roughly 12 by 8. So if you size your images to 12 by 8, we don't want to crop at the end of the day anything off the images. So try and get it as close as you can to 12 by 8 so that it fits straight on the page. So sorry about that. I said 4 by 3, but it does want to be actually a 3:2 ratio, and it needs to be as near to A4 as possibly you can. Right, another couple of things. As a reminder for the extra virtual competition, which is next week. Now, I'm just going to have to grab my phone here because I just want to have a look at something that I got just before we went. Here, where are we? Right. I sent the note out today about when the prints are wanted in for the competition, my competition for next week, and we need the images in for the 13th of April. So we want the prints in for 13th of April. You can put 2 digital images in, black and white or colour. It's an open competition to make it all easy for you. So no excuses for not going out and being able to get images. So 2 images. They need to be in for the 13th of April. And they need putting in your own Dropbox folder. And then Jill will sort them out for you. So that's that one. The next one is Bob's extra special monthly competition, which is landscapes, seascapes, need to be in the folder by the 9th of May. The 9th of May. 2 colour and 1 mono. So you do need 3 images, 2 mono, or you can go up to 3 images, 2 colour, 1 mono. Place them in Dropbox in the monthly folder, where you will find another folder called Special Monthly. So put them in the Special Monthly one, where you would normally put your monthly entries. For anyone who wants to look at these videos on YouTube that we've already done, and I'm talking especially about the sports photography one, you can still see the slides in the external folder in Dropbox. They're under sports photography. Now they will be there for another week or so, so make sure if you want to look at the make sure that you look at the sports talk from last week within the next week or so, and open the Dropbox folder at the same time, and you can look at the slides. That's anybody who wasn't here last week. So right, we're just about towards the end now, so I will begin to fold up and say Thank you very much. I'm just going to have a quick look at the notes as they've popped up on the chat. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Caroline, Viv, Jill, Michael Hubbard, Jim, Graham Halliday, Tony, Doreen, of course, Avril, Neil. Thanks very much all about it. Neil's just put a little note on his down on a chat there. He's put, sorry about the audio, still learning. He's still learning, I'm still learning. I think I hope you agree that there's a big improvement with the slides and the introduction and everything else. So, you know, I'm improving, and we are doing more changes, and we're hoping to make this a regular thing. So, you know, it will continue. So all the best to you all, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get to you all again next week. So bye for now.